It's time to start your morning by taking 5. Here's your host, Matt McMaster.
You're listening to Take 5, quick 5-minute take on the biggest things happening in Nebraska sports. I'm your host, Matt McMaster, and today we are talking about Nebraska football and what are the next steps. I had this all planned out, and then Nebraska football fired John Butler as their defensive coordinator. John Butler, the former longtime defensive backs coach for the Buffalo Bills, then became the defensive backs coach for the Nebraska Cornhuskers for a year, then was promoted to become the defensive coordinator, is out of Lincoln. Probably the right move. John Butler's defense was okay before the Penn State game, and then he gave up 37 points to Penn State and 40 points to Iowa. And I think the reason for now, I don't know. I'm not telling you what the reason as to why he got fired. This is just me speculating. It's my opinion that the foundation of Matt Rule's program at the University of Nebraska is player development. And the guys, a lot of guys on defense could not develop as the season went on the way that I expected them to. I'm assuming Nebraska expected them to, and the fans expected them to, especially on the defensive line. I think Williams, Nwaneri, and Keona Davis got better, but they're not necessarily great Big Ten defensive linemen. They're I would say barely even. I would say they're fine. They're good. They're not incredible. They're not elite. They're not getting all Big Ten honors or anything like that. And then kind of the rest of them, Cam Lenhart didn't take the step he wanted to. Riley Van Poppel didn't take the step he wanted to. Elijah Judy had his moments of being really good. I mean, he was fairly consistent, but once again, not a great or very good, really. Just fine. And so I think the lack of development up front, there was a lack of development, in the linebacker room from the consideration that there were moments where they were flying and Dawson Merritt and Vincent Shavers and Javen Wright look incredible. And then there were moments where it's like, oh, okay, they're kind of disappearing. And the secondary did a great job, in pass defense, but in run defense, a lot of times they just had some really bad angles and really bad fits. And it just seemed to never really get better as the season went on. A lot of the problems that they had against Michigan showed up against Minnesota. Then they showed up against Penn State. And then they showed up against Iowa. And they lost all of those games. And frankly, that's just unacceptable. And so Matt Rule decides to say, see ya, appreciate everything. They're going to go ahead, move in a new direction. I don't know who they're going to hire. You're going to hear a lot of Jim Knowles probably. Jim Leonard will be a name out there. I know he went to Colorado, but maybe Ryan Walters is a guy that they look at. I think that he might fit the personnel pretty well with what they currently have on the defense. I don't, really know or have a whole list of names that they can hire to be their DC, but I will say this. I want them to hire somebody with plenty of Big Ten experience, somebody who's been a coordinator for a while, somebody who this is, they're going to come to Lincoln and they're not going to be overwhelmed by the fan and media attention, somebody who has been in the game for a while and can come in as a very respected voice to not just the defense, but to the entire locker room and kind of lead this defensive unit. I think this is what Nebraska needs. They kind of need a head coach of the defense, and I think getting an experienced voice would be the best step of going about trying to shore up this defense just a little bit. And I just think the lack of adjustments and the lack of development from the defense as the season went on is a main reason, and this is just me speculating, is a main reason as to why John Butler was let go. All right, let's get to the rest of the offseason. This is going to be a tough one for Nebraska. It's interesting to me. I don't know how people would really feel about this team right now if Matt Rule didn't go out and say, hey, we have plenty of money to go and compete, to go and get top guys in the portal, because they're going to need it. I wrote down a list of needs. These are a list of needs that I think Nebraska needs to go ahead and address in the portal this offseason. Number one, an offensive tackle. I think that goes without saying. Elijah Pritchett did play better as the season went on, so I think he could potentially be the long-term option there at one tackle. So I think at least one offensive tackle you need to go and get. You're going to need to get 2 interior offensive linemen. Rocco Spindler's gone. Henry Lutovsky is a senior. I think Justin Evans is a senior too, but going to need to go ahead and get 2 interior offensive linemen. Definitely need to get 2 to 3 defensive tackles. I don't know if you can trust Cam Lenhart coming around and becoming the guy that we thought he would his freshman year. Riley Van Poppel, maybe he was a victim of circumstance and was being asked to do something that wasn't necessarily his strength on the defensive line. but he did not. He showed flashes. I'll give Riley that. Riley showed flashes. Riley showed that, hey, at times this is what I can look like. This is what my peak can be. But there were a lot of times where he was getting moved on the defensive line and at times was a liability. So 2 to 3 defensive tackles. I still think Keona Davis and Williams Nwaneri and Petchak, maybe with another couple of guys who didn't play this year can end up being impact guys. But 2 to 3 defensive tackles. Got to get 2 linebackers. Jamin Wright's gone. Marquise Watson-Trent is gone. I like Merritt and Vincent Shavers a lot, but definitely go ahead, get two LBs, kind of shore up that position, add a starter, add some depth. Deshaun Singleton is gone. Think that you're going to go ahead and need to get 2 safeties. That safety position, especially with Guthrie and Buford, just wasn't the best it can be. And so once again, get a starter, get some depth. They did that last year. I think they go ahead and do it again. Got to get a corner. I think they're good at corner. I don't think there's anything wrong with going and getting another one. Same thing with wide receiver. I think they're really good at wide receiver. No problem with going and getting another one. And then 2 running backs. Gotta go. I mean, you gotta get at least one. But I think you need to go ahead and get a starter for sure. Somebody you're going to say, hey, you are going to get the bulk of these carries. You are RB1. And then either get an RB2, or I do like it when, sometimes you go ahead and you get a guy who was a highly rated high school prospect, didn't really get the opportunities on another team in his first year. You go ahead and you put a flyer on him. So you got to, the running back has got to be the star pickup here. You got to go ahead and get, hey, this is our RB1 who's going to be taking the first carry in your first game of the year. But if you add all that up, 1 offensive tackle, 2 interior offensive linemen, we'll say 2 defensive tackles, you got 2 more linebackers, 2 more safeties, a corner, a wide receiver. That's 14 guys you got to go ahead and get in the portal. So it's going to be a pretty big haul, and that's just the essentials. I mean, that's not even considering other depth pieces that they might get. But Nebraska has got to be active in the portal this year, got to make some big splashes, got to spend some big money. I think that they have some, key foundational pieces around. Like, I think the linebackers are really good. I think regardless of where you're going to be at quarterback, you're going to be fine there. Vincent Shavers is someone you can be excited about. I think Donovan Jones is someone you can be excited about. I think Andrew Marshall is somebody you can be excited about. I think the combination of Davis, Nwaneri, and Petchak, I'd be surprised if one of those guys going to pop. The offensive line, let's see how Gatula recovers from his injury, see how Pritchett, continues to progress, but definitely going to have to address the interior and hope that some of these guys you've had, these younger guys you've been able to develop, can step up. You're got 91 guys who were either underclassmen on last year's team. So you hope that those guys, with a lot of them having experience under their belt, can go ahead and develop in the offseason and take that experience and take their training and improve on that. So, I think there's reason for optimism at Nebraska, but you're still going to have a really big portal, and I think this defensive coordinator hire is going to have to be a pretty good one. So, all right, that's been Take 5, and I've been Matt McMaster.